Hello, welcome to a video for the 2009 mass retail release of the G.I. Joe Ghost Hawk with lift ticket. Here we have a closer look at the packaging that the Ghost Hawk as well as lift ticket comes in. It says Ghost Hawk H.A.W.K with lift ticket. Now it'll be interesting to see if they actually show anywhere what the Hawk part it stands for. It says G.I. Joe right down here with a G.I. Joe classic logo. Kind of reminds me of the commercial breaks that they used to have for G.I. Joe when it would go to commercial or back from commercial, because it would be like black and then the logo, and then they'd have like something like "We'll be right back" or "Now we return to G.I. Joe." So really nice that they have that. This I don't think is really considered part of the 25th anniversary line, because that was in 2007, and I'm thinking this was released in 2008 or maybe a little later than that. Now, it does have kind of a diorama in the background. It's not really sold as that. It's more kind of just the artwork, because if you look at packages from the 80s, most of the time they weren't window boxes, which this is. This has a window that allows you to see into the box. Now, they didn't do that because you used to have to put your G.I. Joe vehicles together, and some of them you still have to, but like this one, it's all put together. You only have to really add stickers. So that's why they're able to have a window box. Now, they may have had a little window for the figure, so you would see what figure, or if you got a figure with the vehicle. But most of the time it was not a window box. Then we'll go ahead and take it to the side. On one side we have lift ticket here. Looks like he has a gun in his hand, so that may mean he comes with a gun. But sometimes they just pose them, and this is the artwork that they have for the figure before they actually release it. And then if we go to the back, on the back of the box we have G.I. Joe, a real American hero, Ghost Hawk, a removable engine panel, rotate engines up or down, opening canopy, detachable missiles, pivoting front guns, and lift ticket. It says in the bottom here in a inscription, "Get in, get out, and don't get in the way." That's what every inch of the Ghost Hawk aircraft threatens as. It pulls a quick vertical landing and takeoff, extracting a G.I. Joe team from the middle of a Cobra ambush. And if Cobra forces still don't back off, the aircraft's cannons and missiles will deliver the message. We have that it says, "Look for these other G.I. Joe vehicles sold separately." It says Oz Striker with leather neck, Sting Raider with copperhead. On the other side, we have the Ghost Hawk kind of on the ground, kind of taking off, it looks like, and firing its missiles. Up top is just the G.I. Joe logo again, but it's very classic because it doesn't really have any breaks up to it. It'd be nice if it had Real American Hero again down right here. Now the bottom of the box is kind of interesting because it does have the G.I. Joe logo that most of us kids would know from the 80s, because it only had this white and red and blue stripe on the end of it, not really necessarily on the beginning of it. Now, the other thing with the bottom that's kind of interesting is it does have a little logo right here talking about the G.I. Joe Collectors Club. So you can go to GIJoeClub.com to sign up if you haven't already done that and you're a new collector to the line. That club is still around. Now it says on the bottom here a few different file cards, and it's kind of interesting because we didn't ever really get file cards for the Ghost Hawks, but yet here we do. And then we also have one for the pilot. When taking a closer look at the Ghost Hawk pilot's file card, it says codename lift ticket, file name Swarovski Victor W is how I would say it, primary military specialty is Volt, and V/Stol pilot. Thankfully, if you don't know what that means, like I didn't, I knew what Volt meant, but the V/Stol has asterisks as well as the Volt, and for those asterisks they correlate with the ones right down here, and with one asterisk, vertical takeoff and landing is what a Volt is, and a V/Stol stands for vertical/short takeoff and landing. That's his primary military specialty, but I think most people that know who lift ticket is more relate to what his secondary military specialty is, because it came with a vehicle or a helicopter in the 80s. So it says fixed wing and rotary wing aircraft pilot. Now I'll talk about it a little bit later and also have links to videos that I did do previously if you want to check those out. They're not in high definition, and definitely when I was still getting my feet wet, as I am still to this day. Now it does say birthplace Lawton, Oklahoma, grade CW2. Says Lift Ticket was one of those guys who joined the Army to get out of his hometown. The big difference with Lift Ticket was he scored so high on the aptitude test that he qualified for West Point Prep, Officer Cadet School, and Flight Warrant Officer Cadet School. Nobody in Lawton ever expected he was that smart. Sounds rude, but if you also read, it says even Lift Ticket didn't expect it. He opted for the flight school, thinking that it was the only one that offered training applicable to civilian employment. He's known for his piloting expertise and stubborn persistence in getting into a landing zone in the middle of enemy fire for extraction. So you definitely want somebody who's stubborn, who's going to come in and save your life now and get you out of danger. It also says you don't just fly into a landing zone, or LZ, expecting the weapons fire to somehow miss you. You've got to have a whole lot of skill, plenty of stubbornness, and a fistful of luck if you want to get you and your team out of there in one piece. Now I'm thinking that's a quote from Lift Ticket, because usually if it's from somebody else they'll say who it's from. Then we'll take a look at the Ghost Hawk's file card, which usually they didn't do file cards for vehicles. Here we have a file card for the Ghost Hawk vehicle. Now it is kind of interesting because if I'm not mistaken, they never did file cards for the vehicles. It was always just for the toy or the character. Now it says type, tilt engine aircraft. Designation V/STOL, vertical short takeoff and landing is what that stands for. Weapons, air to surface rockets, 20mm thunderclap cannons, as well as Vulcan 20mm cannons. Be interesting if anyone knows or wants to leave a comment why they would need two different types of cannons, but it does say the Ghost Hawk aircraft neutralizes the need for conventional airfield. With a simple rotation of its twin turbine engines, this V/STOL can take off or land vertically from a short runway. Once the vehicle is airborne, the engines are rotated into a horizontal position for flight mode. The aircraft's lean profile has caused Cobra air troopers to underestimate its threat. The Ghost Hawk carries air-to-surface missiles for ground assault and two sets of cannons to blast enemy planes. With the Ghost Hawk, the G.I. Joe's team can set up a small base of operations anywhere and maintain critical air support for their missions. Now before we go through the bullet points on the back of the box, I did want to take a second here for those of you that may not be G.I. Joe collectors and may just casually be coming across this video. Now even though they're calling it a G.I. Joe Ghost Hawk, it actually is a remold re-envisioning of a vehicle that came out in 1984. In 1984 it was called the Skyhawk. I don't own a 1984 Skyhawk, but if you go here, there's a video that I did on its kind of cousin or brother, and it's from the subgroup of G.I. Joe called the Sky Patrol. And so it is the Sky Patrol Skyhawk. And it's in Chrome, but basically if you look at that video or do a Google search or even a YouTube search for the Skyhawk, then you'll be able to see the differences and similarities when I talk about the ones that are in the Ghost Hawk versus the Skyhawk from 1984, as well as the Skyhawk from 1990's Sky Patrol.